Generally, the COD community moves in ebb and flow together to where everyone thinks, we gotta wipe our nostrils because this is a stinky ass title this year, or everyone's gobbling up every little piece of content from that year's drop. This year, not only are reviews all over the place, but also content creators, streamers, and YouTubers have very different opinions. You have two distinct camps drawn in the sand. One's a little bit more of the younger audience. Perhaps they have a background in Warzone or other BRs, and they really value the movement and the fact that Call of Duty is becoming way more of an arcade shooter than ever before.
Having an arcade shooter, I don't personally like kind of the milsim tactical, like Tarkov style Call of Duty, because at the end of the day, we're playing a video game, right? So I've always enjoyed Treyarch with their camos, with their skins, with their, especially now movement, everything like that. I've been having a blast so far, and I'm very excited for Warzone and obviously multiplayer now.
Bright, vibrant skins, insane movement with the new Omni-Direction system, which lets you slide, dive, and fuck in every direction. We'll talk about it later. Then you've got some old dogs like 402 Thunder that have been making content on the platform since the Civil War, who expressed dissatisfaction over the exact same things. That Call of Duty is a lot less milsim, and now you've got Nicki Minaj running around clapping her cheeks in your face, while hit markers and 3 different types of pop-ups let you know that you just got a headshot.
Yeah, really not looking forward to the multiplayer at all, especially after what I've seen, man. Call of Duty is definitely like tossing the OG gamers to the side and embracing the new gen booty sliding, bunny hopping sweats. You know what I'm saying? I'd love to know what the demographic is. The demographic that plays Call of Duty, because I can't imagine the older Call of Duty crowd is excited about this insane movement that's coming to the game.
Now, by all regards, I should fall into the latter camp because I got the gray hairs to prove that I've been playing COD since I was a wee lad, and my favorites still remain Modern Warfare 1 and 2 and Black Ops 1.
You want the numbers, Mason. That's all we've ever wanted.
But awkwardly enough, I veer towards the first camp, and I'm proud to say, let me turn on a little extra light here so you can see that I'm not under duress. Bobby Kotick doesn't have a 12 gauge to the back of my noggin or anything. Thanks to the 3 modes standing quite solid and offering a ton of content at launch and a lot of replay value for your 70 bones in comparison to the previous title, which was a straight up cash grab with those open combat missions, which were so reminiscent of Warzone, it was undecipherable that you were playing a campaign. This title takes a book out of Cold War's diary with that spy thriller style campaign with a lot of stealth missions using gadgets and gizmos, and you have a hideout or stronghold that you can upgrade different modules for, and you have a case board where you can gather clues and start missions at your leisure. One of the most enjoyable campaigns that we've had since Cold War, which I really like that style of being a spy and whipping out cameras and gadgets and being 007 basically, which is a lot different than a lot of Call of Duty campaigns, which are generally shift W, balls to the wall, sprinting into battlefields, 2 frags out, dumping mags. And it's kind of nice to just do the stealth thing for a little bit, wear a tuxedo, do the James Bond thing, mixes up the campaign formula that might be bubbling up in our tummies a little bit. Speaking of bubbling up in our tummies, Zombies is back to round-based, except unlike Cold War, which if you go back to my review from what seems like so long ago, I did mention there was a severe lack of content for the Zombies mode at launch with only 1 map and not a lot to do on that map. Yes, there was an Easter egg with the coffin dance or whatever. It just seems like having 2 maps at launch that are both round-based, and the funny thing is, you might think Terminus is smaller because the starting zone is small corridors, but that's actually the larger of the 2 maps, and according to the developers, potentially the largest Zombies map ever made with a ton of side quests, including boat racing, cooking, and an entire laboratory section underneath the island. And the other map, Liberty Falls, has got to be the best beginner map ever, the perfect introduction into Zombies. So if you're new to Zombies, this is your first time ever playing, this is such a good map to start on because you can't really get pinched down very easily. I mean, you can, but there's wide open sight lines where you can just line up a row of dead fuckers. In the multiplayer, we have 16 new maps, which is huge because a lot of times we've had recycle maps at launch, or we might have 3 or 4 new maps. Oh no Contra for 16 new maps at launch. Because of this, I ran a few matches against bots of mixed skill, which is very similar to playing against online people, I would say. But the primary reason I did that is because there's brand new maps and I didn't want to be running around against real players trying to figure out where all the kill zones are and the trap points and all the, things like that. There's a couple maps that I don't like, but all in all, on the whole, Preparation H here, the multiplayer maps are great. Some of my favorites that I've seen in a long time. Weapon balancing is good. The biggest complaint here for multiplayer that needs fixed for sure is going to be the spawn points. Just straight up broken spawns where you will spawn right next to somebody and you're just going to instantly turn to each other and start shooting each other. It's fucking crazy. That was technically a review within the intro of the video, but I've got more to say on each of the modes. Let's do it. So we're going to start with the campaign. I probably won't spend a lot of time here because a lot of COD players just skip over the campaign, which I think is a fucking cardinal sin, considering even the shitters have still had some major set piece moments where you're basically playing through a goddamn Michael Bay movie scene. There's explosions and tits and ass and blood flying everywhere. And if you're just looking for a little adrenaline pumping first person shooter experience that's only going to last you about 6 hours, then gobble down the campaign, which usually introduces you to the new mechanics of that game, which will transfer over to multiplayer and zombies or spec ops. But this is definitely one of the better stories, and it's handled just like Cold War, except it's now 1991, so the technology with your gadgets is a little bit better. You have a stronghold, which you can upgrade at your leisure with little modules, which I thought was really cool. Graphically, this game looks fucking insane. I'll probably say that a couple times throughout this review. Graphics and audio design are insane. Probably the best I've seen and heard from a COD title in a long time.
Get ready! Keep them off me!
So the campaign will take you, like most Call of Duty campaigns, between 5 to 6 hours to beat, although that can vary a lot more with this game because there is these open world missions, which unlike the open combat zone missions of MW3, which I battered up and down the block because they felt like a direct port of Warzone, to where everything from that game felt like it was a continuation of Warzone and everything was built around it. Every mode, every thing that you do felt like Warzone was at its core, which sucks so much cock as a diehard faithful fan of the franchise. Again, I should be falling into that latter camp from the intro, the old timers with crunchy knees saying, oh god, the movement's too snappy with these games and the skins are too bright and vibrant.
All over the place. I've seen people booty sliding backwards. Man, you want to talk about an ass backwards movement system. How do you booty slide backwards? How?
But the campaign can take you substantially longer to beat if you are exploring those wide open zones. You have a little tablet you can pull up and you have vehicles, jeeps you can whip around in. And unlike the open combat zones in MW3, which I fucking hated, they didn't add anything to the experience. In fact, I think they crippled the campaign, which was already just rushed and thrown together. These are absolutely sick, but they would work a lot better if the campaign was co-op. I really wish that it had split screen co-op for local play or online co-op, but there is no co-op for campaign. That would make these big wide open zones a little more fun to approach big fights, but those are there. But you have 11 missions. None of them really stand out as shitters, quitters, or really amazing either, but I will say it's balanced in a way to where the pacing is good, the cutscenes, voice acting, all that stuff, amazing. It's kind of a false sense of control because really it is linear. You're gonna progress through the story the same way, but you had that mission board. It makes you feel like you have a little bit of control. I enjoyed the campaign. Multiplayer, I almost feel like deserves its own video, but I'm going to loop it into here. You do have 16 new maps, and instead of going through each and every one, I like this one, I don't like this one, I'm just going to give you the best and worst. So real quick, got a little article pulled up from onesports.gg, or Good Game over here. Never heard of this website. I cross-checked all this, fact-checked it, and this is accurate information. What the fuck? Anywho, you do have these core 6v6 maps, a lot of which were playable during the beta. I didn't touch the beta at all. I kind of wish I did because I would have had more experience with these maps, but that's okay. You also have these strike maps, which are 2v2 or 6v6, and there were a bunch of launch modes, all the ones that you would expect, honestly. This isn't a Halo Infinite situation where all the modes that the fan favorites that we've come to expect just aren't there. Everything you've expected from a COD title, it's there. And of course, there are hardcore mode variants if you want to strip the HUD off the screen and lower that TTK. So this is my first entrance back into Call of Duty multiplayer in many, many years. You've probably been wondering, if you watch my controller reviews, why I use the repeated B-roll of like the same Call of Duty matches where I'm beating the shit out of people. And you're probably thinking, Kevin, are you just bad at Call of Duty? Is that why you reuse that same clip of you just kicking the shit out of everyone on the map or whatever? Perhaps, potentially, but no. I just haven't had a need, a want, a desire in my gamer soul to revisit COD, considering it is an annual release and there's games, developers that care more about their games. But Black Ops 6, I am so glad that I wet my whistle, I tasted it on the tip of my beak, because all three modes have been giving me insane enjoyment. But what I'm not enjoying is the broken ass spawns in the multiplayer, because constantly, especially on the smaller maps, I'm spawning shoulder to shoulder with an asshole. My favorite of the multiplayer maps, hands down, thus far has been Lowtown. I just love the fact that you can jump from boat to boat, gondola to gondola or whatever, dive into the water, reposition. It makes for some really exciting moments, especially if you're like a SMG or pistol main, you like to run around all fast. Least favorite maps, hands down, are going to be a tie between Vault and Protocol. Even when I do well on those maps, I just don't really get a tickle in the gamer nether regions. I can't really explain what it is. Maybe in the future multiplayer deep dive, I'll have some more articulate words as to why they pinch my sack and twist it around, and why I prefer to not play those maps. The multiplayer mode is where I'm going to get the majority of my money's worth out of the game. That and zombies. I've been playing the ever-living shit out of zombies, which is what we're about to talk about right now. I was not a fan of those open combat, open world zombies. Pick up a quest or a contract and you have that big, well, what seems like a big map. I genuinely despise that, and I am a big fan of the turn-based traditional zombies, which we've seen some amazing maps throughout the years, especially from the Black Ops franchise. In fact, there's some awesome YouTube videos out there of people speedrunning Easter eggs or stories of all the zombies in one video. A couple things I want to touch on real quick is the fact that you can switch between third and first person on the fly. I thought that you had to go into the pause menu to do it. Not true. Just hold down on the D-pad and it will swap between the two. And unlike a Bethesda game, which I might pop it into third person to look at my apparel for a second, but then I pretty much keep it exclusively in first person, I'm playing like almost half of my zombie mode in third person, because the shooting is still super accurate. You have that reticle that actually cuts down on even more recoil than in first person, and all the movement is still there. You can slide, dive, sprint, all the stuff you would do in first person. And if you're going to be buying cosmetics, it's nice to see more than just your forearms holding a gun, and to see the whole cool skin that you swiped your mom's credit card for the V-Bucks. Speaking of that, there are 2 paid cosmetic packages right now that do apply to all modes. So zombies, Warzone, one of them is $30 and one of them is $20. I did purchase both of them. I know I'm going to be playing an absolute shitload of zombies and multiplayer, so I'd like to look cool, and the fact is you can put it in third person, and I'm playing a lot of zombies in third person. So the skins actually made a little bit of sense, because the 4 skins were really cool and the gun skins are also sick. And from a performance standpoint, you get a pack of gobble gums too. Gobble gums are back. A lot of players just don't use them because they find it to be like a pussy ass cheater's way or something. Not true. It's actually a mechanic that's meant to be in this zombies mode, and I would recommend working on your gobble gum packs. Interacting with machines and everything is a lot quicker. The pack-a-punch machine, you just walk up to it and interact with it. There's no longer a menu. Same thing, there's no armor buy system anymore. They are wall buys, so that's quicker just to walk up and buy it instead of having to interface with a menu. There is still a vending machine style thing that unlocks on level 22 or 25 on Liberty Falls, which lets you buy all the perks. And that's the only way that you're going to get Deadshot Daiquiri, unless you do the little Easter egg where you take a sniper rifle and shoot the cans down, which is so much harder than it seems. Speaking of Easter eggs, there is a main story Easter egg for both of the maps, and then a ton of side content ready at launch. We're talking about a bowling mini game, cooking, boat racing, dancing, so goddamned much. And that was my biggest complaint from Cold War. They added stuff like 8 months to a year down the road, but at launch, we're getting a bunch of shit. And from a glance, you might be thinking, oh, only 2 maps here, but one of them, Terminus, is the biggest zombies map we've ever had, with so much stuff to do. And then Liberty Falls is the perfect introduction into zombies.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Like the perfect size. It's not too big to where you're not going to get lost or anything, but it's big enough to where you're not going to get cramped or pinched. You have wide open streets where you can just line up zombies. Now, the Easter egg is, I'm hearing a lot of content creators saying it's easy and whatnot. I've been having a little bit of difficulty with it. The steps aren't necessarily complicated, but the way I've been dying each time is still silly. I will say it's a lot easier if you're doing it a duo or more co-op, but you're not doing it as a solo, because there's one step where you're in the bowling alley and you have to turn a valve while endless hordes of zombies spawn in, and you can throw a decoy grenade or a clapping monkey or something, but it's still real hard. As Per always, the zombies community is fantastic, especially here on YouTube. There were guides for the Easter egg almost immediately. People experiment with just doing random things on the map, and they find out how to do it, and they introduce a guide. And in case you're new to zombies, the main story or quest is called the Easter egg, which is confusing because then there's also side quests called Easter eggs. One of the big changes is you now have a dedicated melee slot for a knife. You do get a baseball bat when you're at maximum cap level if you don't want a prestige, but the knife itself is pretty much like a one-shot during the early rounds, and you can pack-a-punch that sucker. You can also increase the rarity of it. You can apply Melee Macchiato, which is the new perk introduced in Black Ops 6, which gives you a super strong melee attack, but that also buffs the knife as well. So if you're trying to go for a melee build, you can, although it doesn't really make sense in Black Ops 6 because the points or credits for melee kills was nerfed, so now you get 115 points, the most per kill, for doing critical hits, so headshots, meaning that melee builds are a lot less viable just from the standpoint that you're making less credits. You can still go to the higher rounds just stabbing away, especially if you're playing co-op where you have somebody for long range engagements and then you're the melee build guy, maybe combining that with a Juggernog build so you're a fucking tank. The story, the main Easter egg story, really good. Acting or the dialogue that you're going to get for each step, really good. Actually makes you care about what you're doing. One thing I don't like is that with this mode, it is multiplayer all the time. It's on their servers, which means even in solo mode, you can still get a little bit of lag or rubber banding, which sucks. You might get a little lag spike and you're thinking to yourself, what the fuck, man? I'm playing solo here. And then you remember, it's 2024, nothing is local anymore. This is on somebody's server. But the perk of that is that you can actually save your game. If you want to take a quick break to take a dump or grab the DoorDash off the front door, you can pause the game for 15 minutes. But if you're taking a large break, you can save in solo mode and it'll save from the beginning of whatever round you're on, and you can pick up your progress that way. Little caveat to that is you get a little mark next to a successful run. So if you completed the Easter egg, people are going to know that you actually saved halfway through and didn't do a one run completion. For completing the main quest of Liberty Falls, you are going to get a custom ray gun as well as an exclusive calling card, which you can only get this if you do the story now before the guided mode comes out in a couple months, where it's going to add more dialogue where it tells you step by step, hey, pick up this valve, do this part. As of right now, you have to look up guides online or just figure it out on your own. Grinding for camos and augments, the two things that you're going to try and equip and level up, does take a long time. There are some methods to it where you stay on the roof of Liberty Falls, turn on the Rage Inducer, pop a double XP token, and just start cracking skulls till about level 5 or so. Then you relocate, get Deadshot Daggery, and then anyway, you can look up that guide. It's out there for you. But the whole point here is it does take a long time to level up your skills, which are these cans, these colas, these augments, which I do strongly recommend that you prioritize stamina up, and then probably the quick revive. Oh, and then Juggernog. Those three in that order. Best guns in the game, hands down. They're both wall buys on Liberty Falls, is going to be the Ash 12 shotgun. It's the semi-automatic one. Packs real nice, even in its stock configuration. Claps cheeks. Also, there's a wall buy for pistol. I forget the exact name of it. Doesn't really matter because in its stock configuration, it's a sack of crap. You pack a punch that sucker, it becomes the Sally. Explosive rounds. So you're going to be slinging zombies, watching ragdoll effects. It's fun. Speaking of fun, zombies mode. Some of the most fun I've had in a Call of Duty game in years. Turn-based zombies is back. The maps for multiplayer. Awesome. Even the ones I didn't like and I said they sucked, still aren't terrible. And the campaign, one of the more enjoyable stories we've had in quite some time. Granted, it's if you're not going to do all the open side quest stuff, huge open areas, which don't really make sense if you're playing as a solo, which is the only way to play a campaign. You're probably going to beat it in about 4 to 6 hours. Might replay it a couple times on a harder difficulty. Probably not. You're going to get the most of your replay value from multiplayer and zombies. And in that regard, I think the value is here. Now, looping back to the intro, there's two distinct camps. You got the maybe younger crowd that loves the bright, vibrant skins and also the quick arcadey movement, the sliding and the omnidirectional movement, which is something I haven't touched on until right now. I absolutely love it. I think it plays really good into zombies and multiplayer. Awesome. It basically lets you omni in any direction and then sprint, slide, whatever in any direction. It can make for some real slick moments in multiplayer. All y'all know I'm definitely always playing with a pro controller, which has rear buttons or back paddles, so it makes popping off these omnidirectional movements a fucking breeze because I'm constantly aiming or moving while I'm sliding, diving, high-siding, and swapping weapons. And anyway, the omnidirectional movement is pretty awesome, and I can't really picture or envision envision the Call of Duty franchise going back on that, removing that feature just because it is such a big game changer for movement. And I'm totally fine with Call of Duty becoming what it is. By all regards, I should be one of the people saying, oh, fuck, this ain't the COD I grew up with. You know, I used to be geared up with a kit and you wouldn't be popping corners like that and stuff. There's already realistic milsim games like Escape from Tarkov. In fact, so many of them because it birthed an entire extraction shooter clone genre with Delta Point and all the games that try and do what Tarkov does without the greed of battle state games.
Juice time. Juice time. Yeah. Juice time. Yeah. Juice time. Yeah.
There's plenty of games like that, but sometimes I love that fast movement, the things that I get from Apex Legends or hero shooters, and you kind of get that with COD now, where you die, you respawn. It's just fast, fun, quick FPS gameplay, and that's what Call of Duty's always had, is the FPS mechanics tuned perfectly.
Perfect.
The way that weapon sways on screen, it's satisfying. The way that bullets sound when they thud the target, and Call of Duty's always been one of the best bang bang mix shooties, and my golly jeepers, I'm slinging digital bullets at the faces. I'm throwing this little tidbit or morsel at the end of the video, saving the best for last or ass. I absolutely hate this layout. The last few COD games have had this multiplayer centric, super cluttered, looking like a mobile Candy Crush game craziness over here with all these placards. When you launch the game, this should be it right here. This should be all you see, the 3 modes of the game. You shouldn't be getting a plug for all the other products and games. A lot of these modes you might not even give a fuck about. You might never play multiplayer. You might not be a zombies player. A lot of people that play COD don't play BRs and will never touch the Warzone. And it's not installed currently, and you have to stare at it, and then it's just an extra click to get to what you actually care about, which is the game you purchased. This has been my somewhat organized review of Black Ops 6. I will be doing more for the multiplayer because I feel like I kind of skimmed over that mode, probably because it's the one that I played the least of thus far. But I personally am very satisfied with Black Ops 6. I laid back and I let it satisfy me, and it's continuing to satisfy me dry, and I appreciate that. Drop in the comment section below if you are being drained dry by this game or if you are left high and dry, and I will see you Stallions and Stallionettes tomorrow. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers, so this information will reach and assist them as well. Much like the back of the TV, I've got plugs for all of my socials down there in the description below. And your wallet will greatly thank you if you check the description, because there are exclusive discounts on a ton of products, including controllers, KontrolFreeks, keyboards, mouse pads, clothes, and energy drinks. And keep in mind that you, the viewer, keep this channel running. The more Stallions and Stallionettes trotting around the stable, the better, so mollywop that subscribe button like it owes you money, and we'll have the same amount of fun tomorrow.